Just like that, week 1 of the college football season has come and gone. Sure, there's still a few games left, but this was arguably one of the craziest opening weekends we've had in some time. There's a lot to take away, and I'm going to try my best to wrap it up as best as I can. Earlier today, I shared my 10 biggest winners from this weekend, so you know what that means. Now, I'm going to be sharing my 10 biggest losers from the opening weekend. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are that you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. I'm going to be posting daily college football videos all season. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. Also, drop a comment down below and let me know who you think the biggest loser was this weekend. With so many games, maybe there was a team I forgot about. I'd love to hear which team disappointed you guys the most. We'll start with by far the biggest loser, the Oregon Ducks. I didn't think they stood a shot at beating Georgia, but I at least thought they could hang around with the 17-point spread. Yeah, I was wrong with that one. They looked really bad. I mean, they really looked awful out there. I talked about this in my previous video, but they looked like a Division 6 team, and I don't even know if there is Division 6. The offense did absolutely nothing all game, as they couldn't even score one touchdown. Bo Nix looked like Bo Nix, as he barely completed over 50% of his passes while throwing 2 interceptions. The defense, who I had high hopes for with Dan Lanning coming over, looked like they had never played football before. Georgia was doing whatever they wanted. I feel like Kirby Smart told them to hold back because he was facing his former assistant, because this team easily could have hung at least 60 points on Oregon. It was an embarrassing loss for the Ducks and for the Pac-12, as they looked like a team that wouldn't even be competing for a bowl game this season. Speaking of Pac-12 losers, how about the Utah Utes? This one wasn't as embarrassing, as it's tough to go into the swamp and knock off Florida, regardless of what you're ranked. Still, the Utes were ranked number 7 in the country, and the Gators were unranked. Utah actually controlled most of the game and led multiple times, but a horrific play at the end cost them. On the 5-yard line, Cameron Rising did the one thing literally not to do in that situation. Also, earlier in the game, the Utes had first and goal just a few yards away from the goal line, and they got stuffed repeatedly. This game was right there for the taking, but they had some pretty horrific play calls. I don't think they're overrated, as I think Florida was underrated coming into the season, but still, this is a game that Utah should have won, but they collapsed in the biggest moments of the game. We have our first winner cracking this list with NC State. All off-season, I've been hyping them up as a playoff sleeper and my ACC favorite. Well, they nearly lost in week 1, and they honestly should have if it weren't for ECU's kicker. He missed the game-tying PAT and the game-winning field goal within the final few minutes. Devin Leary was pretty bad, as he completed 50% of his passes while throwing for 200 yards with an interception. The Wolfpack had 2 drives late in the game where they had first and goal on the 2-yard line, but they failed to score in both. Their defense luckily was able to keep them in the game, as ECU easily could have had a few more scores. Maybe this was just a shaky opening, but NC State looked pretty terrible considering they're a borderline top 10 team. Iowa won a game 7-3 in which they didn't even score a touchdown. Yeah, that's somehow right. They had 2 safeties and a field goal. They're the first team to do that since at least 2000, as that's how far back the database goes. Their 7 points are the fewest points in a Big Ten win since 2004. Back when Iowa did it. Their starting quarterback Spencer Petras completed 11 of 25 passes for 100 yards while throwing an interception. He had a quarterback rating of 1.1. I think that actually might be an all-time record for the worst quarterback rating of all time. I guess if there's any silver lining for the Hawkeyes, it's that their defense was great once again. They held South Dakota State to only 6 first downs and 120 yards of total offense. But I mean, come on Iowa, I guess none of us are really surprised. But seriously? I had somewhat decent expectations for Louisville this season, but they got ran by Syracuse. The Cardinals lost by 24 points and scored only 1 touchdown. Malik Cunningham was a player who I had in my Heisman list this offseason, and his chances are likely shot after this performance. He had only 180 yards of total offense with 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. This is a Syracuse team that lost 6 of their final 8 games last season and shouldn't be much of a threat in the ACC this year. I seriously thought that Louisville would be a decent team, but they looked awful in their debut. Nebraska won by 21, but it was anything but an easy win. With only 2 minutes left in the third quarter, they were tied with North Dakota at home. No, I'm not talking about powerhouse North Dakota State, I'm talking about the Fightin' Hawks. The Cornhuskers were an upset watch this late into the game. Luckily for Nebraska, they took the lead late in the third quarter and scored 2 more touchdowns in the fourth to make it look not as close as it truly was. When I saw how badly they were struggling through the third quarter, I seriously thought that they were going to lose yet again. Now I know a win is a win, but it can't be encouraging that 3/4 of the way through the game you were struggling at home against North Dakota. They host Georgia Southern next week, so that's going to be yet another interesting test for the Cornhuskers before they start playing some really good competition. For some reason, Virginia Tech can't win on the road at Old Dominion. This was the Monarchs' second ever win against a Power 5 school. And you know who the other one was? Yep, you guessed it, Virginia Tech. The Hokies entered the fourth quarter with a 7-point lead, but allowed Old Dominion to score 10 unanswered points to win the game. All things considered, the fact that Virginia Tech even had a chance to win this game was remarkable. They had 5 turnovers, including 4 interceptions from new quarterback Grant Wells. They went 5 of 17 on third down attempts and had 14 penalties. When looking at those numbers, you'd think they would have gotten blown out. Instead, they lost by only 3. For a team looking to bounce back after a few rough years, losing to Old Dominion is not the way you want to start your season. I have West Virginia on here, which is tough considering they nearly beat Pittsburgh on the road and aren't expected to be a huge threat this season. But this isn't really the team I'm putting on here, it's more so their head coach, Neil Brown. With 6 minutes left in the game, West Virginia had a 7-point lead. They had 4th and inches on Pittsburgh's 48-yard line. Instead of going for it to kill clock and possibly put yourself in position to score again or end the game, they opted to punt the ball. Well, you all know how the game turned out. Pittsburgh scored 2 more touchdowns to come from behind and win the game. If you go for it and don't get it, so what? You still have them with 50 yards to go. Instead of putting the game away, you literally gave the game away. So again, West Virginia isn't the real loser here, it's whoever made that idiotic decision. Texas A&M won by 31, but it took a while for them to put away Sam Houston State. After the first quarter, it was only 7-0. At halftime, it was 17-0. For being the number 6 team in the country, the Aggies didn't dominate the way I would have expected them to based on who their competition was. I know winning by 31 is still solid, but it took them nearly 3 quarters for them to truly break away from this game. I will say, Haynes King looks solid at quarterback, but the rushing game was non-existent. I'm very interested to see how Texas A&M looks next week against decent competition in Appalachian State. For my final loser, I only have them as half a loser, and it's Ohio State. I just want to shout out their defense as they were phenomenal all night. They held the Irish to only 10 points and 250 yards of total offense. I thought they looked much improved compared to last year. Their offense, though, is the reason why they're on this list. This was an offense who I thought would set FBS records this season. Now, they very well still can, but they couldn't get anything going through 3 quarters against Notre Dame. It wasn't until the end of the third quarter in which they retook the lead. Now, maybe this Notre Dame defense is going to be really good, like a top 3 or 5 defense in the country, but I seriously thought Ohio State would hang at least 40 on them. Their offense was really underwhelming, even though they were without Jackson Smith and Jigba for most of the game. It was still an impressive win, as anytime you take down a top 5 team is no easy task, but this wasn't the Buckeyes offense I was expecting in week 1. Major credit to Notre Dame though, as they played a hell of a game. Well, those are my 10 losers from this weekend. Which team do you think was the biggest loser from this weekend slate? Was there a team who really disappointed you that you think should have been on this list? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know down in the comment section below. Before you leave, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'm going to be posting college football content every day throughout the rest of the season. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.